At 0341 local time at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the alert klaxon goes off and a Patriot crew sprints to their engagement control station for the 70th time in 72 hours. Unknown to that crew, 430 miles southeast of the Gulf of Oman, a Virginia-class submarine has just taken 12 maritime strike Tomahawks to firing depth. And an F-35 nobody on the Iranian coast can see is already orbiting the most fortified piece of real estate in the Persian Gulf. The peace talks aren't going to hold, and every weapon out here is loaded for the moment they don't. If the talks collapse, the first weapon over the wire isn't a swarm. It's a single Fatah-1 ballistic missile aimed at one specific target on Al Udeid, the Patriot battery's own radar. The thinking on the Iranian side is simple. Blind the Patriot, and the 146 weapons behind it have a clear lane to the flight line. The Fatah-1 is Iran's first hypersonic-class ballistic missile. Solid-fueled, range about 900 miles, terminal speed Mach 13. The re-entry vehicle can swerve in its last 60 seconds of flight, like a running back juking a tackle at 3,000 miles an hour. It's the missile Iran built specifically to defeat Patriot, and the Fatah's thinking is correct. As far as it goes, a Patriot battery without its own radar is a useless Patriot battery. Or it would have been 6 months ago. 6 months ago, the Pentagon quietly finished fielding a system called IBCS, the Integrated Battle Command System. Think of it like a power grid, where any plant can feed any house. If a radar goes down anywhere in the network, a different radar somewhere else takes over and launchers keep firing. Right now, hundreds of miles southeast of Al Udeid in the Gulf of Oman, the USS Frank E. Peterson Jr. is on station with her spy radar tied directly into the Patriot launchers at Al Udeid through that network. Her job is exactly one thing: be the backup pair of eyes the Patriot battery is going to need the moment Iran throws its first punch. The scopes are still black when the launchers outside the shelter start screaming on their own. 12 PAC-3s tear off the rails in 8 seconds, launching from a radar the battery doesn't own. Every data source line on the operator screen reads a Navy call sign she doesn't recognize. The Peterson, 400 miles away, roughly Boston to D.C., is now her radar. Iran's whole opening move is built on a 2024 playbook that doesn't account for the network. 31 ballistic warheads shredded on the way down. 43 cruise missiles dropped mid-flight. 0 impacts on the base. Somewhere in Tehran, an accountant looking at the numbers on a salvo like that has to update his resume. And the moment that salvo gets stopped is the moment the rest of the operation, the part that actually reopens the strait, moves. Out in the Arabian Sea, the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is already in launch position, and that's what changes everything that comes next. The first aircraft into Iranian airspace aren't going to carry bombs, they're going to carry noise. 4 EA-18G Growlers off the Lincoln push north into the Gulf of Oman at 32,000 feet and light up every Iranian coastal radar on the strait. Not because they've been ordered to start a war, but because that's exactly what they're positioned to do the moment one starts. The ALQ-249 next-generation jammer floods the frequencies Iran's early warning network lives on, and the electronic picture over the strait collapses into static. Jamming isn't silence, it's noise, flooding every channel the enemy uses so they can't hear their own people talk. A radar operator at Bandar Abbas tracking a dozen contacts 30 seconds ago is suddenly tracking 1,000, none of them real. The IRGC Navy's Coastal Command Net was passing traffic to fast boat crews in the coves, and now that channel sounds like a blender full of coins. The operators can still transmit. Nobody on the other end can pick their voice up out of the flood. That's the opening Growlers make, and everything else walks through it. 2 squadrons of F-16 CJs out of Al Dhafra and the UAE have been flying SEAD orbits over the Gulf for 10 days. Suppression of enemy air defenses, pronounced SEAD. Each Viper loaded with 2 AGM-88 harms and one job: make the Iranian Sand Belt pay for every radar emission. The 15 Cordad battery at Bandar Lenge lights up to take a shot at the Growlers overhead. 8 seconds of radiating is all it gets. A harm tears off the rail of a Shaw-based Viper, punching past Mach 3 and covering the 12 kilometers in under 15 seconds. The operator sees the launch warning and screams at his crew to shut the radar down. It doesn't matter. GPS and inertial backup carry the warhead to the exact spot his antenna was radiating from when it lit up. What just hit the battery? The AGM-88 HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missile. It hunts radio waves the same way a heat seeker hunts a jet engine. Every pulse a SAM radar sends out is a homing beacon the missile rides home. The choice it forces every Iranian SAM battery on the coastal is brutal and binary. Radiate and get hit. Stay dark and be useless. Most pick useless. A few don't, but a few is all the Vipers need. 15 minutes of this clears the SAM belt from Bandar Abbas to Jask, but the threat above the strait is still up there. 600 miles north, 6 F-15E Strike Eagles from the 389th Fighter Squadron are sitting on the apron at Mafawak Salti Air Base in Jordan in alert configuration. The squadron has been flying combat air patrols over Jordan and Iraq for 2 months. Each jet carries 38 laser-guided rockets on 2 wing pods, plus 4 AIM-9X Sidewinders and 4 AIM-120 AMRAAMs on the rails. Their targeting load is the Shahed 136 patrols. The Iranian planners who set up the drone curtain assumed any American answer would come from a fighter throwing million-dollar missiles at $50,000 drones, a math problem that breaks the Pentagon's checkbook before it breaks the curtain. What they didn't know was that the F-15Es at Mafawak Salti weren't carrying Sidewinders for the drones. They were carrying something cheaper than the targets. The Shahed 136 is Iran's one-way attack drone. $50,000 apiece, 200 pounds of explosive, about 120 miles per hour on a moped engine. For the last 11 days, Iran has kept 30 to 40 of them airborne in lazy circles over the strait at 5,000 feet, waiting for merchant traffic to push east through the choke point. The moment a tanker tries to transit, the nearest 3 or 4 Shaheeds roll into a thermal dive and hit the ship from above. That's why no VLCC captain, very large crude carrier, 2 million barrels of oil and a hull longer than 3 football fields end to end, has pointed his ship at the strait in almost 2 weeks. Havoc 41 is airborne in 8 minutes. 80 miles from the strait, her weapons officer in the back seat, Wizzo, has his sniper targeting pod you see here, resolving the first thermal bloom in a lazy circle at 5,000 feet. Delta wing platform, warm engine, slow mover orbit, confirmed Shahed. He lasers. The first AGR-20F screams off the rail, motor burning for 1 second, laser seeker riding the designation dot on the drone's fuselage. 3 seconds later, the target disintegrates into fiberglass confetti at 5,000 feet all over the strait. A second rocket is gone before the first has finished coming apart, and a third before the second. The rocket is an APKWS, Qeshm, and it's how the U.S. Air Force stopped losing money on drone swarms. A 70mm Hydra unchanged from the unguided version that's been in the inventory for 50 years, with a laser guidance kit bolted onto the nose. $25,000 a round. An AIM-9X Sidewinder is $450,000. An AIM-120 AMRAAM is $1 million. Shooting either one at a $50,000 Shahed is the kind of math problem that puts Pentagon accountants in rooms with no windows. Qeshm fixes it. Every rocket off a Strike Eagle wing costs less than the drone it destroys. 6 Strike Eagles, 1 patrol line, 20 minutes. The aerial layer of the blockade is gone for the first time in 11 days, but 50 feet below, the water is still full of boats. A-10s from the 122nd Fighter Wing got into the Al Dhafra 2 weeks ago. The same 2 weeks the Lincoln moved into the Gulf of Oman, and the peace talks went from making progress to going in circles. The Warthogs are positioned for one specific job. The 31 Coves full of fast boats nothing else can hunt economically. A Tomahawk against a Bog Hammer is $1 million shot at a $50,000 boat. An F-35 is the wrong tool entirely. The right tool got picked because of what it carries and what those coves are full of. What those coves are full of is Iran's asymmetric answer to anything with a flag and a cargo manifest. Bog Hammers with heavy machine guns welded to the bow. Paycap-class missile boats carrying 2 anti-ship cruise missiles each. Zulfiqar family boats that can close on a tanker in 4 minutes from a standing start. Hundreds of hulls scattered across 31 inlets along 120 kilometers of coastline. Hog 1-1 finds 6 of them tied up at a fishing pier south of Bandar Abbas. Crews already running from the hulls. Trigger time, 1.5 seconds. The Avengers start screaming, and the lead boat comes apart bow to stern in the first half-second. Depleted uranium slugs hammering through fiberglass like tissue paper, and the stern fuel tank goes up in the last quarter-second of the burst. The second boat is burning from ricochets before the pilot walks the burst left, and 3 more boats are gone before he climbs back to altitude. That gun is the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm rotary cannon that fires 3,900 rounds a minute, each round heavier than a Glock. The entire A-10 airframe was designed around that gun, not the other way around. Every system on the jet exists to keep the Avenger pointed at the ground and the pilot alive after he pulls the trigger. A flying chainsaw that costs about $3,000 per 2-second burst. 6 fast boats, $200,000 a hull minimum. Gone for less than a Best Buy gift card. The A-10 pays for itself every 20 passes. 4 seconds of trigger time, 5 boats. $3,000 in depleted uranium slugs against more than $1 million of fast attack fleet on the bottom of a fishing pier. 2 Warthogs working 31 coves can take the fast boat fleet apart as an organized threat in under an hour. Some boats make it to sea, most don't, and the ones that do are now alone in the water a Super Hornet can reach in 8 minutes. 90 minutes into a scenario like this, the shipping lane is empty in a way it hasn't been in 11 days. But it's not clear yet. The cliffs of Qeshm Island have everything they need to start the blockade all over again. Qeshm Island sits at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, and right now it's the most heavily fortified piece of real estate in the world. Every Iranian anti-ship missile that can range a tanker, every command bunker for the IRGC's Navy's 5th District, every fast attack boat shelter, all of it on Qeshm. Almost all of it buried under 200 feet of limestone. 70 miles southeast in the Gulf of Oman, the USS Minnesota, a Virginia-class attack submarine, is hanging at 400 feet with the firing solution loaded. 200 miles south, the USS Spruance has 16 Tomahawk Block 5s in her vertical launch cells. 300 miles south of that, 2 B-2 Spirits from Diego Garcia are 11 hours into the longest combat sortie any aircraft routinely flies. And somewhere over the Gulf of Oman, at an altitude and a position the Iranian air defense network has zero indication of, a 4th platform is already in the fight. Nobody on Qeshm Island knows it's there. They're about to find out the hard way. If the order ever comes, here's how those 4 platforms reduce a $400 million fortress into rubble in 12 minutes. The missile division officer on the Minnesota pushes the final key. Spread authorized, salvo fire, 12 rounds, 2-second interval. The first tube fires. Seawater floods in. A maritime strike Tomahawk ejects upward on a gas generator, breaks the surface, and lights its booster in a plume of white exhaust the submarine never sees. The Minnesota is already diving past 600 feet, and 11 more tubes fire behind it. Within 90 seconds, all 12 Tomahawks are on deck and at 100 feet above the Gulf of Oman, pointed at Qeshm from the east. Inside the combat bunker on Qeshm, the watch officer reads the call out twice. Inbound vampires from the east, low altitude, 12 tracks, no warning, and picks up the phone to wake his admiral. The Iranian admiral orders the SAMs to slew north. They start slewing at the speed of machines built to face south and nothing else. Right as the order goes out, a second phone lights up. 200 miles south of the Arabian Sea, the Spruance has just fired 16 Tomahawk Block 5s from the exact vector the Iranian defenses were built to counter. If his SAMs can't slew fast enough to cover both directions at once, the island is caught in a crossfire with no answer. He spent weeks preparing for one attack, and the Americans sent 2. The first 15 Cordad radar on Qeshm goes active to engage the Spruance salvo from the south. The operators don't know a second salvo is already closing from the east at 100 feet, terrain masked by the Musandam Peninsula and invisible to a search beam that only looks the other way. The radar operator is still tracking the southern salvo when 3 more contacts appear on his scope from the wrong direction. He has 19 seconds before 3,000-pound warheads land inside the fence line. The second battery lights up anyway, same result, and the third follows a minute later. The Tomahawk has been in service for 43 years, and this version does 2 things no previous variant could. It hits ships, and it changes its mind mid-flight. The Maritime Strike Tomahawk carries a 1,000-pound warhead, flies 1,000 miles, cruises at 100 feet off the water, and has a two-way data link built into the airframe. The data link is the whole point. The missile can swap targets in flight onto a new radar emission or a fresh GPS point handed to it from a shooter halfway across the theater. Think of it as a cruise missile that's also a bloodhound, pointed at the general area, and if something in that area turns on its radar, the missile smells it, turns, and hits the source. The SAM battery who lights up to shoot the Tomahawk down is the one who just rang the dinner bell. The pattern walks across Qeshm. A Minnesota Tomahawk for every SAM that radiates. A Tomahawk for every coastal launcher in a tunnel mouth. 7 minutes erases the air defense belt and the launcher fleet, and the island is suddenly naked. But the tunnels themselves are untouched because no Tomahawk was ever going to crack 200 feet of limestone. That's the B-2's job, and the B-2 has a problem. 300 miles south of Qeshm, Reaper 3-1 has been flying north from Diego Garcia for 11 hours, a 6,000-mile round trip across the Indian Ocean, the equivalent of flying from Los Angeles to New York and back, arriving over the island at 40,000 feet without a single air defense radar on Earth knowing it's there. The mission commander feels the jet jump upward as the bomb bay opens and 30,000 pounds drops out of the belly. 4 GPS-guided tail fins start adjusting 6 times per second as the GBU-57 falls toward a coordinate that isn't quite locked yet. He watches the aim point update on his display, then update again. The source label reads a call sign that isn't in the B-2's formation. Some other aircraft, somewhere else in the theater, is guiding his weapon, and Reaper 3-1's own sensors don't have a lock on the target. The most destructive conventional weapon in the U.S. inventory is falling toward a point on the Earth the crew dropping it can't see. Like a sniper pulling the trigger on a target his spotter is describing to him through the radio. If the spotter is wrong by 10 feet, you put a 30,000-pound hole in the wrong mountain. 28 seconds to impact. Whoever the spotter is, the tunnel mouth is either exactly where he says it is or it isn't. The first GBU-57 slams into the primary command tunnel entrance on the southwest face of the island. The weapon rips through the camouflage net, smashes through the limestone, punches through the reinforced concrete blast door 180 feet down, and detonates inside the tunnel complex where the overpressure has nowhere to go. The tunnel ceiling pancakes in a 6-second cascade, and every vehicle, every missile, every console inside evaporates. That bomb is the single most destructive conventional weapon the U.S. has ever built. The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator exists for one job: getting to targets buried so deep nothing else can reach them. 30,000 pounds, 20 feet long, casing forged from Elgin steel, the hardest steel the U.S. ever developed for bunker busting. It punches through 200 feet of hardened rock before the fuse sets off the 5,300 pounds of explosive inside. Think of it as a subway train fired out of the sky, designed to drill through the mountain before it blows up. Reaper 3-1's second mob hits the secondary command tunnel 90 seconds later, and Reaper 3-2's 2 weapons collapse the redundancy nodes on the north face. 4 impacts, 4 tunnel systems caving in, and the mountain that was a fortress 40 minutes ago is sliding down on itself. 300 miles south, over the Gulf of Oman, at 32,000 feet, Night 1-1 has been watching all of it. She's an F-35C off the USS Abraham Lincoln, VMFA 314, the Black Knights, a Marine squadron, and she's been orbiting Qeshm for 6 hours without radiating a single pulse of radar. The F-35 runs 3 sensors at once: the APG-81 radar, the EOTS infrared camera under the nose, and the DOS. 6 infrared cameras stitched around the airframe looking in every direction at once. Sensor fusion on the F-35 is like having 6 security cameras around your house all feeding one monitor. Front yard, back door, and the guy sneaking through the side gate at once without turning your head. Now think of it like watching someone through a 2-way mirror. You can see them, but they can't see you, because you're not shining a flashlight in their face. That's how Night 1-1 spent 6 hours over Qeshm. The DOS watched every vehicle move on the island, and the EOTS memorized the heat signature of every tunnel door. 3 entrances were pinned to within 4 meters the moment last night's maintenance crew walked away from them. And while 30,000 pounds of bomb is 28 seconds from impact, Night 1-1 is squirting the final coordinate down Link 16, so it hits the tunnel mouth instead of the mountain next to it. If the order comes and that strike package execute the way it's loaded to execute, the Iranians are cooked. If you enjoyed this video, then watch this other video on the war with Iran. Bye for now.